Good morning. So this is totally up to you guys. I've got no content to cover. I've got shockingly nothing left to say. So if you guys have questions, feel free to unmute and jump in. And I'm happy to screen share through anything. Otherwise, I will just be here.
So I can start. I feel this is Latonia, everybody. Good morning. So I feel kind of bad because I was poking around in my computer, having a good old time. And then I was trying to customize my terminal and I got permission denied. Oh, and then after that, I thought I broke something. Then after that, you sent your message saying, "Hey, folks, don't do more than." So that's why I said I feel a little bit bad. But I think I know the answer. I think it's because it's not assigned. Like when I go into my Bash profile, I'm not the administrator. The root is the administrator, and that I need to change that.
Yeah, so
And then another option is to use the sudo, but I was taught like that, like you really should, and you even said look away. So after your message came out, I was like, just stop. But I kept looking at articles. So does that sound right? I feel
yeah,
like okay.
yeah. So you're definitely on the right path there. This is terminal is kind of a double-edged sword of you need to learn terminal in order to be able to run developer commands that aren't necessarily open, easily accessible to the regular end user. And the reasoning behind that is because, there's a lot that can go wrong inside of your terminal. With that said, Bash profile is one of those things that is super powerful and is kind of a necessary evil. And so what the Bash profile does is it is the thing that runs every time you open your terminal. So if you think about what happens when you open the terminal, instead of just opening the terminal and you can enter a command, the Bash profile is something that every time you open a new terminal, it executes all the code in your Bash profile and then says, okay, I'm ready to accept commands. And so to your point, you said, oh, I got it to change the colors or show the information that I wanted. But when I quit and reopen it, it didn't hold it, right? It went back to the default.
Well, actually, it didn't even let me change it. I changed that other stuff in the terminal, like just on the Mac, not in the Bash profile. And when I went to do the customize, that's when it took. So I actually didn't change anything.
Okay, so the Bash profile is a great spot to say like, oh, I always want my terminal to display this information, or like I want to make these customizations permanent. The danger of the Bash profile is it runs again every time you open the terminal. So if you've got a mistake in there, the terminal will go, oh, I don't understand what this code is. And because I don't understand what this code is, I can't let you type in any additional code. So now all of a sudden you can be locked out of the terminal because you've got a mistake in your Bash profile. And so in order to fix that, you go, oh, well, I'll just go edit my Bash profile. Well, you can't edit your Bash profile without going into the terminal to edit it. And so that's the danger that you get of if you understand everything you're putting in the Bash profile, it's completely fine to edit it. But you don't want to go too far down this path of copying and pasting things and get one line off, and then all of a sudden you can't use your terminal anymore. And so the when you edit your Bash profile, it is locked to the root user for the very dangers that I just talked about. Of hey, if you know what you're doing and you really want to edit things in here, we will let you, but you either have to sudo into it, or I guess you could change the file permissions, but I wouldn't recommend that. Like having that protection around the file is probably a good idea. So I would say get comfortable in the terminal a little bit more. The other thing is that you're going to be using terminal in VS Code a lot more than you're going to be using the standalone terminal. And so a lot of those customizations won't carry over, or that you won't need the customization because the terminal is already set up to run inside the project, as opposed to having to CD up and down and all around to get to where you need to be. So I would say any command that requires sudo is worth checking in with the instructor of the week and going, hey, do I really need to be sudoing this? Because there are certain commands that you can run with or without sudo. And if you run it with sudo, it will actually break more things down the line. Because once you run it with sudo once, you always have to run it with sudo. And so you don't always want to be going, hey, do this as an admin, like use my override, just use it. And that's what sudo is super user do. Super user was the name for admin in Linux long ago. And so the command sudo stood for super user do, and it was meant to be this, hey, run this command as an admin. But like I said, that can get you in trouble down the line. Okay. With all of that said, I did promise a video on how to customize your terminal. I haven't gotten to that, to recording that yet, but I will go through and figure out how I made those changes to my terminal, because I don't remember off the top of my head. And then I can provide a video of step-by-step of here are the safe things to do, and here are the things that I've tested that I know are safe to put into your bash profile. And then we can cover sudo as part of that as well.
Okay, that's awesome. And Karen actually, because once it started saying permission denied, I was like, okay, let me check with someone. So I bothered Karen, and she was basically like, look, you're not even going to use it. You're going to use VS Code. So, okay, thank you. That was awesome.
Absolutely. Other questions?
I have a question.
Shoot.
There's an icon on my desktop that's like my hard drive.
Yep.
And I don't really want it there. I think maybe I put it there by mistake when I clicked on a box. And I don't want to like do something that will actually, so.
Do you happen to remember how you got it there? I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I think it was under the view in the menu. I think it was kind of late last night.
I thought I was going to find it under view and show view options.
Yeah, and it's not show. Oh, that's because I'm in.
But yes, you do have to be in Finder to get that menu up at the top. Yes. But I was kind of surprised to not find it there.
Oh, I think I'm in the Zoom menu right now. That's why. Okay.
Yeah. So if you
go ahead.
If you click on Finder in the bottom left of your dock, that's the little face, you'll notice the menu bar all the way at the top of the screen changed. Yes, that menu bar is always specific to whatever the active window you are in is.
Excellent. I didn't know that. Okay.
Yep. And so that is also how when you quit an application, whatever you tell it to quit is obviously going to be the application that you're in. So Jesse shared some Mac resources, and I believe he put that in the Google Classroom. Those are, they're an assignment. They're probably more optional, but I was going through them and I went, oh, these are a couple good tips. Or like, I forgot that was different on a Mac. But in answer to your question, if you go up to Finder in the menu bar and click on that and then drop down to Preferences.
Okay.
There's going to be a little tiny window that pops up. And if you go to the General tab, there should be a Show These Items on the desktop, and hard disks will be there. Yes. I would recommend leaving external disks checked, but all the other ones you can uncheck.
That's what it. So I didn't actually like put an alias or a copy or the actual hard drive on the desktop. Ooh, okay.
No, it's just a okay. it kind of acts as an alias or a shortcut.
Right.
But it isn't, it's not like you created that. It was just a preference whether you want to show or hide it.
Okay, so now I'm good.
Yes, yes, you're good to go there. No harm, no foul.
All right, and a little later, I'm gonna have a question about Slack, but I gotta figure out in my brain what it was. So thank
Okay.
you so much, Max. I hope that
No
helped
problem.
others. All right, now I need to go back to Zoom.
All right, other questions?
Oh, mute.
I
I
can
go again.
run.
Oh,
Go ahead.
Okay, I just said I was trying to wait to see if anybody else wanted to go.
Go for it.
I had two quick questions. In Echo, I was using Echo and Terminal just to practice posting just messages.
Yep.
And I had my parentheses, my quotation marks at the front and at the end. And for some reason it wasn't posting. And then like I just kept trying it. And then eventually it posted like all of them, even though they were separate actions. And so I
Okay.
was like, this is weird. So I went out and then I went back in and I thought, let me just have one success where I know it's working the right way. But it went back to doing that again. And then the other one is that Karen mentioned this. We went over bookmarks and some other stuff. The blog, I remember reading that somewhere. But like no one has mentioned it. So I wasn't sure if we were still doing that or just waiting to do that.
That is a good question. I will talk to the instructors. I'm actually going to write that down so I don't forget. So I can tell you what we did in cohort 1. I can give you my personal recommendation. I cannot tell you what the official CIC response is for that. But let me start with the blog and then I'll work my way back to Echo. So in cohort 1, we encourage all students to blog. I think it was more of an encouragement than a requirement. But lots of different blogging platforms out there. I personally like medium.com a lot. You can go to wordpress.com and set up a blog on WordPress, Blogspot. Tumblr used to be one, but RIP Tumblr. But the idea behind blogging while you're going through your development journey is twofold. One, it's to share that this is actually a journey, right? This isn't just a couple things that you guys are learning. This is going to be, you're going to have your highs, you're going to have your lows, you're going to have your breakthroughs, and every developer going through this journey is kind of unique, right? And so the benefit of blogging is being able to share that content, is to be able to kind of document it, write about it. And the other benefit about writing it is you're kind of cementing whatever you just learned in your head, right? It's not just, oh, I know how to run this code. You're documenting how you figured out how to run the code and writing a little story about it. And if you can tell a story about it, now you're kind of reinforcing what you just learned. So the point of the blog posts were to be super open-ended. There weren't any requirements or like you have to write this many words or anything like that. But it was an encouragement to just say document your journey as you go. The other than the learning benefits from it, it also starts opening you up for employers, right? Because chances are, other than your day-to-day social media and pictures that you post and stuff like that, your employer is going to want to know a little bit more about you. And while your resume is great, oftentimes your employer will go check out your blog and see what you're working on and see what projects you're doing, or see how far along you are in your development journey. Or oftentimes developers really struggle with communication, right? If you think of that stereotypical nerd or geek or whatever, they're the people in the basement who have trouble making eye contact, right? Which is not the most accurate stereotype, but oftentimes an employer will want to see someone who can communicate. And a blog is a great way to say, look, I can not only write, I can write about something technical in a way that people are going to be able to read it and enjoy it. And so I know Karen, who is on this call and is going to be your instructor next week for her interview process, she sat down and the person hiring her said, oh, I read your blog and I found it super interesting about this. And now all of a sudden you have something to talk about, and something to talk about that you already wrote about, right? And so I would really encourage you to blog. I would like to start blogging more. If you would like to get an idea of what I blog about, I'll share my website in the chat.
I'll share mine too. Mine doesn't have so much technical code in it, more of struggles throughout that I managed to overcome. And it's, you'll see, because it's very sarcastic. I come off as very sarcastic, and that's just, I don't know, I guess that's who I am. But Max is right. That was one of the first things that my boss had asked me in my interview question, and he said, I read your blog, and he said, you said you overcame problems, and, how did you do that? And in my blog, it was just, I never gave up. And actually that was my motto through the entire program was PS, never give up. And it was, and you'll see in there, I learned that I had to walk away and come back. There's a lot in there that you learn across the whole program. So, I mean, I'll put my website in there too, so you guys can take a look and read. I haven't put anything in there in a while, and I really need to get back into doing that, because it does help. It helped me anyway. Just to be able to be like, and then I go back and I read it and I'm like, oh my God, what a difference from when I started to what I can do now. It makes a big difference.
Yeah, so you're not going to lose points if you don't blog, but it's a great way of documenting the journey. And the blogs don't need to be super technical. It's not like you need to write about the module that you're in, at this very moment, but just that breakthrough moment of like, I got code to run in the terminal, like being able to share that excitement. And one other thing I wanted to latch on that Karen said is her motto was never give up. And I have a lot of people ask me, like, what do you think the most important thing is about a developer, or about, a student going into engineering, or anything like that? And I think that, a lot of people, oh, you've got to be really smart. Like, you must be a brainiac if you're a software developer. I'm like, no, not really. Like, yes, you have to have a base intelligence, but you don't need to be a super brainiac, a great student, any of that. I think the one word that it boils down to for me is perseverance. And I hire senior devs, I hire junior devs. We're just starting to hire entry-level developers. And the thing that I look for is that perseverance, is the what do you do when you get stuck? Because you're gonna get stuck. I'm not gonna interview you and get you stuck and go, oh, you got stuck, I'm not gonna hire you now. Getting stuck is just part of this job. And so that's what I think is more important, is can you persevere through that and get yourself unstuck? And I think being able to share that experience in a blog is really great. So it's nice to get your own voice out there. It's a nice way for people to get introduced to you without actually talking to you through your writings. And you'll find blog posts on there. Some of mine are, here's what my desk looks like, and here are the software tools that I use every day. And other ones are about me having migraines and kind of experiencing those symptoms and kind of accepting things as they are. So your blog can be whatever you make it. And I will check in with Jesse and Dana and the other instructors to see if there's a guideline that CIC is suggesting. But me personally, I can recommend, just go for it.
I don't think that there is. It was just a recommendation for us as well. It wasn't anything that we had to do, that anybody checked on. It was, we recommend that you do this. It'll help you get through the program. It'll help you get through the process. And for me, it actually did. I don't know how many other students actually wrote a blog, but I tried to update mine at least once a month. I tried to write at least one entry once a month throughout the program, so that I could, just be like, okay, look, this is where I was at. And you'll see, because there's certain points, where I was trying to do something for my capstone and I thought I was going to go insane. And I thought, this is it. I'm done. I can't do this. I'm going to quit. But I didn't, and it's a huge learning experience. And I can tell you right now, I kind of mentioned it at the kickoff. If you guys think that you're just going to come into class and do whatever is there for class and then do the homework, you'll never make it. When I say that I had to put things aside, I was still working a full-time job while I was doing this program. So I would get out of work, I'd go right to the program, I'd come home and I'd be up till 11, 12, sometimes 1 o'clock in the morning, doing work, working on my capstone, getting things done, making sure I understood what was taught that night or that week. My weekends were like, they were in front of the computer. My husband would come out sometimes at 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. He's like, you need to go to bed. And I'm like, but I need to finish this. I'm like, let me just finish this. And you give up certain things and other things, but in the end, it's all worth it.
Yeah.
It's all worth it.
The biggest thing that I can say there is that if you follow along with the instructor and just are able to reproduce what the instructor does, you're not going to get anything out of the program, right? It's the why are they running that, and what does that error mean, and what is the understanding, and why are they doing that? It's all of that, where programming is not, it's not like you sit down in algebra class and they go, okay, here's how you do algebra. And you figure that out and you go, oh, well, if I can do algebra this way, I can do algebra that way over here, right? It's not like that. You've got to understand in programming what the commands are doing or what that error message means and how do we get around that error message and debug it. And there's just so much understanding where, I think we did a great job in cohort 1. I think we're going to do another great job here of teaching and getting you guys the fundamentals. But to Karen's point, there's definitely an investment that you have to go, all right, this isn't just, doing what they do and I get my grade and I go out there. There's definitely an extra factor that we guys can only help, that we can only help with so much.
To that point, though, it is important, and I do know what I'm talking about from personal experience. Don't forget your mental health. If you're staying up to 1 in the morning because you think you have to get something done, you need to step back and ask yourself, do I need to do it this way?
When you read my blog, you'll find
that's
one of the things that I learned.
So I know the same, what it's like to quit and give up and not give up and to continue. So, but that is important to remember. And this is hard work, and sometimes we might not enjoy it, but it's supposed to be kind of fun, right? I mean, it's supposed to be something that we want to do, that we worked hard to get into. So it's just, I'm talking to myself more than anybody else to remind myself sleep is important and all, that kind of stuff too. So if it starts to get that crazy, something's off probably. And I did have a question next. In the chat. Can you hold
it for 1 second?
Well, you had 2 URLs.
I posted 2 URLs. One is to my personal website. Okay. At some point in the program. I don't know if I will be able to do it in one of my modules, if I'll release it like a YouTube video, like I will for the Bash profile stuff. But at some point I would like to sit down with you guys and help you get personal websites online. Karen is going to go through in her module how you make a basic website and how you get it up on hosting and all of that kind of stuff. But somewhere towards the end of the program, I'll maybe hold an office hours or do a workshop, or I'll figure it out. But making sure that you guys can buy a domain name and you can use your stipend to do that. We set you up on hosting and you just get a website up and running. That personal website, I love my website because it looks very pretty and says next to nothing, right? Content is always the hardest part of a website. And so that's just my personal website. And when you guys go out on the job market, right next to LinkedIn, which I would love to do another workshop on, the other important thing is, well, if I'm hiring you as a developer to make a website, why don't you have a website yourself? And so we will probably spend some time on that. And then the second link is just to my posts on Medium, in case you're curious about the blogging and kind of my blogging style. But just additional resources if you guys want to take a look. And I would also recommend taking a look at Karen's blog as well, because she's going through the same steps you went through, or that you're going through.
Right. And I can tell you, Carolyn, one of the things that helped me get past not staying up as late was I never followed along in class. I couldn't do it because, they would be typing and they, okay, great, you're putting it out there. I can't type that fast. So I would get behind. Sometimes I could do it, it would depend on what it was we were doing in class that day. Didn't matter though. I always went back and I would rewatch the videos at night and on the weekend because I could stop them. And that's the biggest thing I'm going to tell you. The YouTube videos are going to be key in everything you do, because I was able to be like, okay, I didn't really understand it in class. I would go back, you can watch it, you can get to a certain point and stop it, because then you can code along with them. And I did that with everything. I'd be like, okay, let me stop it here. I'm going to try and do what they just did in that 30 seconds or whatever. If I got it, I knew I was on the right track. If I didn't, I would rewind it and go back. And if I still couldn't get it after like 3 or 4 tries, then I would reach out to somebody and be like, what am I doing? What am I missing? And sometimes it's as simple as you forget a quotation mark or you forget a bracket.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Thank you. That is a wonderful tip. Thank you.
And I will say everyone's learning style is different, and every instructor has a different teaching style as well, right? So some instructors are going to go super slow and make sure you're following along step by step. And other times it's going to be like, we only have 2 weeks to cover this. We're going to go through it. Again, I would say the most important thing in class, while you have the instructor, is ask those questions of like, why are you doing that? Right? Like, I can go back and there are concepts that I can get from the video if I just invest enough time. But there are times that I'm going to be watching that video and want to ask a question. And so asking those questions in class is what the best thing to do. But don't be afraid to ask the instructor, should I be coding along with you? Should I be following you step by step? Or is this something that, I just want to focus in on? And the answer most of the times is going to be, it depends, right? If you feel like you typing it in class and keeping up is going to help cement the knowledge and help you understand it, then by all means go for it. If it is something where you are like, I'm getting overwhelmed, I want to just focus on what they're doing, and then I can catch up on that later, that's also completely fine. And so it's going to depend on the exercise. It's going to depend on where you're at. We're not asking you to, at the end of the class, upload a file and we're going to grade you at the end of the class, right? Like, it is however you learn at whatever pace, that is fine. Some people will have to invest more time than others. But don't be afraid to be vocal and give that feedback, because remotely, even if I'm trucking through it and I give you a warning that I'm trucking through it, if I'm going so fast that no one in the class is understanding what I'm doing, don't be afraid to go, hold up, I'm lost. Like, you're going too fast, right? Because that's the feedback that we need as instructors. Yes, it's a boot camp, but there is such a thing as too fast.
When I started the program, my work had actually sent me out of town the first week I was doing it all from my hotel room. I didn't know there were YouTube videos. So I was only going into the Google Classroom and reading what they had for the PDFs and trying it. How I managed to do that, I have no idea, because I didn't know any syntax. I didn't know anything when I first came into the program. Like, I couldn't even have told you, like, I never had heard of like HTML. I don't know, but it's worth it in the end. Everything that you are going to do and everything that you are going to endure will be worth it in the end. But Max is right. Ask the questions. 100% ask.
And in cohort 1, we just turned on the fire hose and went, day 1, HTML, let's go. And what we realized in that process was, oh, we should probably give you the garden hose before we give you the full fire hose. And so that's why we started covering the stack and different job titles and project planning. And they went, what instructor can bullshit the most? And then they went, oh, Max, let's put him on week 1. But hopefully it was a good introduction, getting the dev environment set up, and that frustration that you go through of like, this command isn't working or permission denied, right? And having another student be able to jump in and be able to help with it. That's why I jumped in and I said, when you get all the MacBooks, before you ship them out to them, don't install things for them. Let them go through that experience, because that you're going to have repeats of that over and over and over again. And that's the most important thing to get out of the class. Isn't just what commands do I run? It's figuring out when those commands don't run, how do you get through them? And so you'll see throughout the whole course, instructors will get stuck. And I think I said this even during class, there are times that I will write out example code before class and then go, I know this is a potential sticking point, so I'm intentionally going to break something here, and then we're going to debug it together. As many times as that will happen, there will be just as many times as I will actually get stuck in class. And I go, no idea why this isn't working. Tried this earlier, it worked fine, not working now. And so, the instructor, because professionally they do this all the time, they're going to go off and they're going to fix the problem. But I would encourage you guys to say to the instructor, can you talk through how you're knowing what to Google, how you interpret this response and know how to fix it, right? That's the understanding aspect of it.
The other thing that I can say too is, if you guys can manage to get together for study groups, whether it's through a Zoom link or meeting up somewhere, do it. This is obviously it's completely different, and it's harder because everything is remote. But we became sort of like our own little family for 6 months, and we would stay after class, or we'd meet before class, or we'd get together on the weekends outside of office hours, any of that stuff. I don't know of too many places, but if you guys are stuck on something and you want, sometimes being in person is better, because you can actually talk to somebody instead of doing remote. If you guys are stuck and you want to meet somewhere in like the Syracuse area or outside of the wherever, reach out to me, because I don't mind meeting, someplace like Panera or one of those places where you can grab a table and we have Wi-Fi access, and, just go over a couple of things.
So Latonia, I want to get back to your question about echo. 2 things. One, I'm going to try and answer it, and then I'm going to tell you to stop using terminal. One, for your echo, terminal is, while JavaScript and other programming languages are picky about quotes, terminal is almost anal about it. It is amazing how picky terminal is with quotes. So what I'm thinking is happening, and I would have to see the exact code to say, but oftentimes you will open a quote and not close a quote. And what that tells any other programming language is, hey, something is wrong here. I'm going to throw an error and tell you that you're missing a closing quote, and then just not run the code. Terminal looks at that opening quote and goes, oh, because you don't have a closing quote, that means that when you hit enter, you're going to type more code onto the next line. And it's going to, and you go and you try and run the command again and hit enter, and it says block quote and has more code. And you're like, just run my code. And it's just giving you more and more lines to keep running that command all the way at the top that failed. And so the way you want to get out of that is, whenever you see something that says block quote, instead of it saying, your username at your computer name and then whatever directory you're in, you're going to want to hit Control-C. And it's one of the only things on the Mac that is not command whatever. It is actually Control-C. And what that tells the terminal is, forget whatever you think I was trying to do. Just give me a new line and let me start over, right? And so there will be times that I'm like, I don't know where I'm at. I'm in the middle of this command. So instead of holding the delete key, which won't always work, because if you're in a block quote, you can't edit the line above it. Control-C is just going to get you out of there and give you a chance to run the next command. With that said, and I appreciate your terminal and bash and shell and all of that enthusiasm, I would say the next place that you want to focus is going to be HTML and CSS. So I wanted to get you guys running some JavaScript code because the setup to get JavaScript code running outside of the browser is a little harder. And I wanted to get you guys through the development environment setup on week 1. So that when we do get further down into server-side programming and all of that, we don't have to suffer through like this is the terminal for the first time. And so the next couple of modules, the first thing you're going to cover is HTML and CSS basics with Karen. And that's going to be, how do I get text on a page? How do I get, you know, a red rectangle to show up on the left and a green rectangle to show up on the right? It's going to be, no offense to Karen, but it's going to be how to make an ugly web page, right? It's just these core fundamentals. Then Caitlin is going to come in, and Christy and Dana, and they're going to talk about how to make all the stuff that you learned with Karen pretty. How do you make an actual functional website? How do you use all the building blocks that Karen taught you to style a website and actually make something that you wouldn't open and go, oh, wow, this looks like it was made by a beginner web developer. From there, we go into basic JavaScript. And so Gus is a developer at Density, and he's taking, I believe, the first half of that, which is 2 weeks. And then I take the second half of that, which is, okay, now let's dive in. You guys have made a basic web page. You know how to style it. You know how to use a component library to make it look pretty. Now let's talk about making it functional. Let's talk about getting the computer to do things we want it to do. Okay, when, you know, how do I add these two numbers together? What's a variable? What's a function? What's all of that kind of stuff? So I kind of misled you a little bit on getting notes set up and getting you in the terminal. I just wanted to lay the base foundation there. So curriculum focus wise, where you're headed is HTML, CSS, design and components in HTML and CSS, and then intro to JavaScript, which is going to be kind of computer science 101 a little bit. So it's going to be, you know, what you think of when you think of actual code and programmers and all that kind of stuff. Not to say that HTML and CSS isn't actual code, but that's kind of where we're headed. And I don't want to discourage you from going off and exploring. So like if you're interested in the terminal and want terminal practice, you know, I'm happy to help there. But curriculum wise, I hope that gives you a little idea of kind of what's coming up next. Awesome. Other questions? You were muted, Carolyn.
I think I have some different instances of Slack.
Okay.
Between my cell phone and my PC and my, and it's trying to assign me like a new whatever number it is, and it's asking me for my team name. And I think we kind of hit on that in one of the classes. If I go back, I wasn't sure which class. I could listen to that video and try and figure it out. Or
so you don't want to create a new team or workspace.
Okay.
I believe they call them workspaces now.
Yeah,
yes.
and it did.
So if you do, you can just sign out of that and close the workspace. You don't need to worry about that. When you go to sign in for the first time, it will ask you for a workspace name. And that is, well, do you want to share your screen and I can just walk you through it?
Yeah, see if I can get it to happen. In the meantime, please go help someone else. Let's see here. Do I have here? Come on, where'd you go? Okay, never mind. Oh, and another thing too, I'm not seeing my applications under favorites. All right,
Once you get to screen share, and I can help you with both of those.
okay, back to Zoom. Where am I? Sorry, here you are. All right. Host disabled participant screen sharing, okay. It says host host.
That's my fault. Hold on.
No, oh, fine.
Okay, now
Let's
you should
get
be able
off.
to.
All right, so let's see, here we go. This is, I did the Finder.
You
And
you want to do desktop 1 when you click on share.
okay, sorry. Share screen, desktop 1, except it won't show. Sorry.
And then if you hit, you have to hit share at the bottom of that to, yep.
Okay. And so
Perfect.
it'll show whatever on, okay, good, because I thought it wouldn't see the other things. Okay, so I did Finder.
Okay,
And
let's fix your applications problem first.
okay,
I've got no idea how you managed this. Let's click on desktop and click back into applications just to like, yep, and then back to applications. Click on view up at the top. I'm sorry, up the top of the applications window. And then go to as icons. Right click in applications in the, I'm sorry, on the big white space. Yeah, right there.
and hold it down or let up.
Right click, so either 2-finger tap. And then go down to view. That doesn't help me. Okay, go down to show view options. And click on that. Yep. How did you manage this? Okay, let's hit the little close icon on that new window that just popped up. In the top left, there's a, yeah.
It's kind of under the,
Oh, if you, there should be a little arrow, where you see the stop share button to the left of stop share.
oh,
You
right,
can
right.
shoot that down.
Over here, this one pointing up.
No, I can't see that part of your screen. Zoom makes it so I can't interact with that.
It's that arrow that's kind of curled and points up at the very far left.
Yes, if you click on that, it should move it.
Dock to top, okay.
And then if you did it flip
Oh,
so you can put it at the bottom now?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, it's up out of the way. I think it's happy, and I just
Okay.
want to close this window.
Yes.
Okay.
And what we're gonna do is we're gonna go up in the top left.
Yep.
And drop down to applications. And somehow you stop sharing your screen or it's frozen.
Oh. Your screen sharing is paused. Share. Stop. Stop it. Huh. Uncustom. So hit it again. Share screen.
Yep.
Desktop 1, because that's where everything's going to be.
Yep.
And share. All right.
Okay, we're back. All right, so here are your applications.
Yes.
So they haven't gone missing. What
No.
I believe happened is that the favorite for applications isn't pointing maybe to the right applications folder.
Yeah.
That's just a guess. The weird thing is you shouldn't have multiple applications folders. But what we're going to do is we're going to right click on applications under favorites.
All right, so I have to go.
Here, let me,
back. Oh, there's
gonna right
favorites right
click
there.
there.
Okay. Just click once.
yep, but right click,
So that's 2 fingers,
2
right?
fingers, yep. And then you're gonna remove from sidebar.
Oh, good.
And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna get that back into your sidebar. So in order to do that, go, just click anywhere in that window.
Not the sidebar, but it doesn't matter
Doesn't
where.
matter.
All right.
And then go back up at the top.
Yep.
And drop all the way down to computer. Yep.
There it is. Okay.
And then open up Macintosh HD.
So I double click or click
Yep,
once.
double click. And then you drag and drop applications over into your favorites.
All right. Oops. Stop it. Hold on. It doesn't want to cooperate.
You want to go back down to Finder in the bottom left.
So
then,
to drag and drop,
yep,
if I just use one finger and I push down on the trackpad.
push and hold and then move it over.
All right.
Oh, try again.
It's just getting used to this. It's a little different than the Toshiba, so. It doesn't matter where I press one finger, see, then it opens it.
Yeah, so you don't want to press too hard. If you press too
Yeah.
hard, it thinks it's gonna preview it for you. So you're gonna kind of push and hold lightly and then drag it over to favorites.
Yeah, and I'll see it. I kind of was getting the hang of this yesterday. There we
Yep,
go.
you got it.
And I just put it
And,
out, accept it.
Make sure it's not yeah, that's perfect.
Yeah, I think I did something like that. I somehow duplicated
Try
an
that
application.
again.
Yeah. It's a very tactile thing.
Yes.
And that should be good to let go now.
Yep. And there's your application. So
Thank
now
you.
let's click on that and make sure it's still working. There we go. You're all
Yes.
set.
You are the man.
No problem.
And if I want to put, well, I'll probably just leave it where it is. I won't mess with it.
You can get it up to the top. If you click and hold, it will show you little lines, and wherever that line is, we'll let you drop it and reorder it there. Yep, you got it.
I just don't want to put it inside something else by mistake. It's so easy to do. Whoops. Stop. Sorry. All right, I'll play with that later. We got the basics. We know I didn't lose my hard drive. We know I didn't, so.
If you can stop sharing your screen and we'll open the floor up to other questions.
Yeah, this JavaScript thing, is that yours?
That's what we did yesterday. Feel free to close out of it.
Okay, that's not me. All right. And stop sharing screen. Okay, sorry.
All good.
I do speak English. I swear. Okay.
Oh, we use Slack all the time at work because we've been remote for years, and my English, as more and more code I write throughout the day, my English usage just goes down and down and down, and eventually I'm just like using the wrong to, or like typing HOLE instead of WHOLE, and
Right.
it is amazing how when your brain gets
stop.
into that engineering mode, it is
Yeah.
tough to get
Oh,
English out
But
sometimes.
if people understand what you're saying, it really matters in code. But if people at least know what you're saying, it's like whatever,
Exactly.
So, and then I'll have to come back to that Slack thing because someone else may want to use the time. I just took a long time. Thank you.
Yeah, these office hours are all up to you. It is truly like office hours, open door, and stop by and just share what's going on. So I try my best to come to these without an agenda.
Yeah, and I don't want to monopolize, so.
This may sound like a silly question, and I promise it's my last one for today. The CIC folder that we made for that activity we did.
Yep.
So now it's on my desktop. Can I like pop that in a folder someplace?
Yep, absolutely. Just wherever you put it, make sure that you're consistent with it, right? So like you'll want to keep all of your CIC stuff in one folder, and then you'll want to have multiple folders in that CIC. So one of the folders you'll want is that code base folder, because as instructors upload code, I believe Karen is going to go over how to pull that repository down so that you can get copies of the instructor's code as they put them into that folder. So I would recommend, if you're working on any of your own code, to create a separate folder for that. And then even within that folder, create more folders for module 1, module 2, all of that kind of stuff. But long answer to your question, you can just drag and drop that into your documents folder or wherever you want to put it. I personally keep everything on, I have a projects folder on my desktop, and then whatever code I'm doing is all in the projects folder. However you want to organize it is fine. Just to make sure that you do have some organization at the module level, because what you'll end up finding is that you'll have like 15 different index.htmls, and they've all got to be called index so the browser knows, open this file. But we're going to be making lots of different websites, and it's going to be hard to keep track of all of them. So I personally recommend kind of having your CIC project folder, and then within that have a folder for the classroom code base, and then have another folder called like my code or something like that. And then in the my code folder have module folders. And then in those folders have day folders. So, all right, this is day 1, day 2, day 3, because it will be very rare that we create several index files in the same day. So I know it sounds like folder overload, but it will come back to bite you when you're trying to work on one project, and all of a sudden the other project code is still in there, and you go, well, I may want to come back to that or reference that. So just, starting over from scratch or copying the files instead of moving the files is a good technique.
And if you put a folder on the desktop,
Yep.
Does it also put it in like where it would go in your data folder or documents or whatever?
Well, the desktop is just another folder, and the visual desktop that you see is the icon showing up on the desktop, right? So short of a couple exceptions like Macintosh HD, which we already found, anything that you put on your desktop, if you go to Finder and click on your name and then click on desktop, will also show up in there.
All right, it's a little different with the PCs. You get shortcuts, and it's a whole different process, and it's like I can do it from either end. Wonderful.
Yes.
Thank you.
No problem. Yeah, my favorite learning curve when I see people first getting on the Mac is they're like, my icons aren't showing up on my desktop. And I say, yeah, but they're on the right, not on the left. And they're like, oh, there they are.
Yeah, that was my biggest issue. Also, now and that's what I kind of noticed, that like with systems on here is the same as the control panel on the Windows.
Correct.
So
yes.
What I was wondering is that the terminal, what is that equivalent to on the Mac?
So
on
Windows, that is called command prompt.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, and then if you think about Finder on the Mac, that's kind of the equivalent of, they used to call it My Computer. In Windows, I think they call it Files Explorer now, but just that notion of, way back in the day in Windows 98, you would open up, My Documents or My Computer, and you'd start going through your files that way.
Right.
The Mac just calls that Finder.
Yeah, I think that's, so far has been my biggest issue, trying to maneuver on the Mac is a little bit different.
Absolutely. Yeah, and the good news is that learning curve is not too long. So I think, once you get into it, all the other development stuff will become a lot easier. But to your point, Karen, there are analogies to everything, right? So it's not like the Mac does this one thing that the Windows doesn't, or vice versa. It's just a
Right.
matter of finding it.
Right. Yeah, and those the videos that he sent yesterday about how to work the Mac or whatever, that was so helpful.
Awesome. Yeah, and there are several links in there. You know, that was one thing that came up at the instructor debrief, right? Of what resources can we get out, and what do the students need, and all of that kind of stuff. And Jesse, I would throw one thing out, and Jesse within like 30 seconds would be like, here's a good link for this, or like, oh, they can take this quiz. Or it's like, whoa, you are fast on that. But yeah, and whenever you guys are stuck, you know, ask it in the class, or just direct message the instructor in Slack and go, you know, are there more resources we can share on this? If you don't want to look like the one who's struggling, chances are you're not the only one who's struggling. Chances are the other students are as well. But, you know, direct messaging the instructor and saying, are there some links that you can provide? And the instructor will probably go out and know exactly what to Google, and not only share them with you, but share them to the whole class.
Right. That was so helpful.
Great. Other questions? Near the end of office hours. Go for it.
So I have Slack. I open it and it's trying to get me to fill in all these. I just say, well, go away, because I don't need to do that. And I don't have to worry about it.
Do you see the Hack Upstate logo over on the left?
Let's see here.
Okay, yep.
Yep, I'm actually in it. Yeah.
So if you click on that NW, which stands for new workspace,
Oh,
and then we maybe right click on it.
on the NW.
Yep.
So 2 fingers.
Yep. And then sign out of new workspace.
Oh,
Maybe go to Hack Upstate first.
yeah, I think I'm in browser or something. So should I sign out from browser? I may have initially logged in through Google and I just kept it that way.
Are you in the Slack app or in Google
Well,
Chrome?
This is a good question, because right now it looks like I'm in Google Chrome.
Okay, so go ahead and hit sign out there.
Yeah.
And then if you can stop your screen share and start it back over with your entire desktop. And I know it's 12 o'clock, so if you guys, you know, don't have any other questions, feel free to drop out. And if you do, feel free to hang around or throw them in chat and I can answer them. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to go to Finder first. And we're going to pop open applications now that we have it back. And we're going to scroll down to the S's. And open Slack up from there. Okay, so this is, you'll notice down in your dock, that icon next to Zoom, that's the Slack icon. Mm-hmm. And so you are signed into Hack Upstate here and not into that extra workspace, which is exactly what you want.
Okay, good.
So you're all set. I would encourage everyone to either open Slack once a day to check in, or just leave it open on your computer and you'll get notifications as people send Slack messages. But definitely having the Slack app and making sure that it's in your applications folder and not running out of downloads is a good thing to have set up.
Yeah, and I may have had it open on my Toshiba, and that's why it's in the browser in there, and then I check it on my phone, and so I don't have multiple instances. I just had like
yes. Yeah, and
So-
you were going, you caught yourself before you went down the wrong path of new workspace. I don't want to create a new workspace.
I'm so glad.
So yeah, you're all set and you're in the right spot. So you're good to go. You're all set up, at least on this computer.
Thank you. Well, this is the one we're using, so.
Yeah, yep.
Thank you so much.
No problem.
All right.
All right. Any other questions I can answer for you guys? Awesome. Well, I am going to jump out of this call. Karen, we'll go into the link that I sent for 11. And if you guys have any questions, Slack is the best way to get a hold of me. I will be probably auditing next week or sitting in class or whatever they call that for just to help out wherever possible. But you likely will not see me for another 5 weeks until you are in JavaScript land and rocking and rolling in code land. But definitely reach out to me on Slack if you have any questions. Feel free to email me or whatever works. But otherwise, you've got a great slew of instructors coming up. I have either personally taught with them or taught them themselves, or I believe every instructor except 2 I have either worked with or taught. So I can tell you got a great instructor crew coming up. And I think you'll be excited to dive into HTML on Monday. Awesome. We'll see you guys. Thanks for joining.